All right, I will edit this, so if I make any mistakes, I'll fix it along the way.
Okay.
This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com, and I have a special guest. He runs NGW Northwest on the west coast of the United States. He's worked with countless legends, including Kevin Sullivan, who I actually talked to earlier today. Coach Mike Jones, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So you've been in the business a long time. When did you first get into it?
I started training around late 94, and my debut was in 96, March 16th, 96, against Billy Two Eagles.
Cool. He's a legend in that area of the U.S. How was it debuting against him?
Oh, it was a whole nother ball game. It was an awakening where I really had no idea what I was getting into. It was basically I was a fill-in for someone else, and get in there with him, and he's got these hardest chops, some of the hardest chops in the business, and I was like, whoa. But anyway, I held my own, and after I was done with the match, he come up to me and he said, hey, don't you ever let anyone say you can't wrestle, because he says I can.
Wow. That's better than my first match went. So, were you always a wrestling fan growing up, or is it something that you just decided to get into later on randomly?
Yeah, always been a wrestling fan. Watching Don Owens wrestling, big time wrestling, back around 1973 as a little kid. And I was a big fan of Jesse Ventura, Jimmy Snuka, Piper, and then of course later on Billy Jack, Jay Youngblood, and then we got cable TV, and I was able to see Georgia Championship Wrestling, and I usually always like the faces, and I just started liking Mr. Wrestling 1 and 2, and I seen how over 2 was, and I was like, man, I want to be like him.
Did you ever wrestle at all Billy Jack Haynes?
No, didn't have the fortunate to wrestle him. No,
Did you meet him on any indie shows over there?
I've seen him live, but I didn't get to meet him.
What was it like in the glory days of Pacific Northwest wrestling that Don Owens used to run? Because that was a crazy territory. You guys, so many legends came out of there. Dynamite Kid, Billy Jack, Roddy Piper, Chris Adams wrestled there. So many.
Yeah, I got to see a lot of them. I got to see Dynamite Kid. I got to see Jay Undead, like I said. I got to see Rick Martel, Sugars. I got to see Andre the Giant live. Uh,
Wow.
Buddy Rose took it to him, started cheating, hit him with 50 times with brass knuckles, and laid him out and got him all bloody until Andre got pissed off, threw him into the ropes, gave him the big boot. Buddy Rose was out of there. I was like, wow, man.
Did you get to work with Buddy Rose at all in later years?
The way I got into wrestling was Buddy Rose had a fan challenge. And up until that point, I just sort of thought, I was like, man, I'm as big as these guys, or bigger than most of these guys, and I could take them all, I thought. And then, of course, you learn that it's a lot different when you get in there, and then let alone. So I accepted the fan challenge, and then out comes Big Red Wrecking Crew. He's 6'5", 375 pounds, and I was in shock for a minute, and I was like, oh shoot. But then I realized this is my chance. I've got to at least challenge him. I was able to challenge him, and then of course they won't let you in the ring until you're trained. Thank God. I was able to train with Debashi, trained with him for about a year. Got to go up to Stanwood to train with Big Red Wrecking Crew in his ring in a barn. And I also trained with Matt Farmer and Nikki Six of the Suicide Kings.
And I guess you had a bit of a rough life growing up before you got into wrestling. There was some alcohol issues, I guess, with your family, and you grew up in the Tacoma area.
Yeah. I grew up poor. My dad was an alcoholic drug addict. He spent time in prison. Uh, they used to rob drugstores and stuff back in the 70s, and one of his friends was the person they based the movie Drugstore Cowboy off of. And then,
Really?
yeah, and then my uncle, my at this time, my dad was in prison for robbing drugstores. My uncle lived with us, and slept in the same room with him. Me and my brother and my aunt and uncle slept in the same room. My uncle had just robbed a drugstore one Saturday night, buried the drugs in the backyard, and then went in bed. I guess he OD'd. I woke up in the morning with the fire department there. They're carting my uncle out of the bedroom. After that, our house would be getting robbed because the other druggies would know that there was drugs somewhere in the house, and my crazy grandma would be chasing people out with a broom. It happened 2 times.
Jesus. Now,
And
was it like pain medication that you had the problem with, or was it more like coke and other types of drugs?
everything. But yeah, they were doing a lot of the dilatas and you name it, they did it. Yeah. And then another story I had, I was 3 years old. I go to knock on the bathroom door. My other uncle, he's in there. He won't let me in. I had to go pee. Finally, I just kept knocking. He let me in. And next thing you know, he doesn't miss a beat. I'm taking a pee. He's sitting there shooting up in the sink. And there's blood running down the sink. And I was like, what the hell? I guess he must have been missing, but that definitely fixed me from ever wanting to do needles.
Yeah, I was going to say that could either scare somebody straight or really screw a kid up if you're seeing that all your life. That kind of becomes normal, I guess. But I guess you were scared straight by all that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I smoked weed and drank a little growing up, but I turned out good. My brother turned out good.
What was the worst experience you had? Was it that time where you woke up and the ambulance was there? Um,
I'm not sure. One thing, though, that hit me that I had to beat my dad's ass at 15 years old. He was an irrational drug addict, an irrational asshole that would just attack me for no reason. I didn't even do anything. So instantly, headlock takedown, body slam, punch to the face. But instantly I realized, no, you can't do this to your dad. So I let him up. He walks out the door and starts going down the street. And I'm looking out the window, and my dad walking down the street going to myself, there's no way my son will ever do this to me. And then, of course, I was a better person than my dad, and my son is a good person, and we've had a great relationship.
did you go to school after you moved out, or did you get right into the workforce?
I graduated high school, and then I started out going to Alaska, working on the fishing boats. Had some crazy experiences up there. Started out as a processor. Man, that's a rough job where they got a turnover that is crazy. Hardly anybody makes it through the 4-month contracts. And I admit, if I could go home, I probably would have left too. So anyway, I couldn't leave, so I had to stay. I started out as a processor, uh, butchering crab. Then I made it all the way to a deckhand, and then within 5 years, I was a commercial fisherman. And so I got to go out to do king crab fishing and working 22 hours a day. I was sort of crazy. And then I was on one shipwreck up in St. Paul Island, Alaska. Our 350-foot ship got grounded on St. Paul Island with 100-mile-an-hour winds, the all-Alaskan seafood ship.
Wow. So I guess that was before wrestling.
Yes, it definitely was. Oh, and then my story about that was at 18 years old, I called Don Owens and I was like, I want to try out. He asked me one question. He said, did you wrestle in college? I said, no. He hung up on me. And I was just blown away. I was like, my wrestling dream is ruined. Then I knew the alternatives. I could move to New York or Atlanta, but I didn't have any money. And I'm like, nah, that doesn't sound realistic. So I just basically gave up wrestling until I was 28 years old, and Buddy Rose had the fan challenge at DeBossi's show.
Was the training hard, or was it fairly relaxed compared to some of the places like the dungeon and some of the crazy training stories you hear?
Boss trains pretty good. He trains you the basics really good. Everybody has their styles. I mean, I've also had the unfortunate to train with Tim Flowers. He tried killing me. What I mean by that, at the time before I started training with Tim Flowers, because I already wrestled with Debossi for a few years, Tim Flowers decided that they were going to come down to Washington and take over our territory. And they gave half the wrestlers ultimatums that if they don't join Tim Flowers' group, they're going to blackball you from wrestling. Well, what happened? Half the people left, half the people stayed, and we continued to be successful. And we were starting to sell out the Boys and Girls Clubs, which was a nice thing. They let me run shows there because I coached there before, and it was cool. I got to play there as a kid, too. So it was really special to me. Well, then anyway, next thing you know, we wouldn't stop. Next thing you know, somebody bomb-threaded the Boys and Girls Club, so we can't have shows there no more. And then, so next you know, DeBossi's not running any more shows, so I ended up joining Flowers. And what I mean by he tried to kill me is, at the time, I was all about promotion and stuff too, is where I had some like the biggest websites around, personal websites, and like we had to show that weekend. I stayed up like 18 hours working on my website before the show, and so I come on that Friday or whatever to help. Of course, Tim Flowers got me at rookie level, even though I had a status at DeBossi's, because he hated me. Even though my first match in Canada, he's got me and the pimp winning the cage match. After that, I'm getting squashed every time. But regardless, I'm not too worried about that. I mean, because I'm going to do what they tell me to do, But so anyway, I got them set up to tear down the ring and load it up for the show the next day. Well, it's not time to tear down the ring and set up. It's time to practice, he says. And so we got like a 2.5 hour practice. And what I mean by him trying to kill me is they're doing run the ropes drills, and everyone else has got like 30 seconds to a minute. But I'm in there. He's got me like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever. So finally, I could not. What happened was I was so dehydrated. I hit the ropes one more time. Finally, I realized I can't do it. I bounced off the rope and fell out of the ring onto the floor, right as close as I could to my Gatorade bottle. I'm basically paralyzed. I cannot move. And I could barely reach over and grab my Gatorade bottle and sneak a sip off of it while he's in my face telling me, "Don't drink Gatorade, drink water." And I don't hate anybody, but that guy. And then I've seen him shoot on so many guys while I was in Canada. He's not a very nice guy. But I don't know if you know him or not.
I actually don't know him because I'm on the opposite end of Canada. So I haven't. I've amateur wrestled out in British Columbia, but I never professional wrestled in that province. Just Alberta. I never went further west than Alberta.
Yeah, that was the toughest training.
So yeah, I think I may have chatted with him possibly online maybe at some point, but our interactions have been little to nothing, so I couldn't tell you what kind of a person he is. But you also had an MMA fight at one point in time. How did that happen?
That happened where now I also helped promote MMA, and where I'm promoting MMA and wrestling at this biker bar in Spanaway, Washington, outside of Tacoma. And during that same time, another couple wrestlers, this one guy, he's on steroids, so for some reason he thinks he's tough, and he decided to call out this guy JD Mason, who JD didn't do nothing to nobody. But I think the reason why Damon calls out JD was because just your typical thing, oh, I think I can beat this guy's ass, so I can talk a bunch of shit about him. JD said, screw that, let's fight MMA. So those guys were already fighting that day. And about a year earlier, I got into some deal with, there was this guy around here named Mike Santiago. Many people consider him to be one of the best wrestlers in the Northwest, one of the toughest wrestlers in the Northwest. He's like 5'9", 200 pounds. And I admit he's tough and a bit crazy, okay? So what happened was, all I said to him was, I was like, and I've seen him wrestle some lucha matches, or heard of him doing it, right? So I said, hey, Mike, I need some more Mexican wrestlers at my show. He flipped. He's Puerto Rican. What the F? I'll beat your ass, this and that. Wait till I see you. And I'm like, I was blown away. I was like, geez, I didn't know that would even make someone mad, you know? But, you know, of course, you live and learn. And I really know now that, yes, Puerto Rican people don't like that. I'm sorry, but I didn't know. So anyway, when he said that to me, I was like, okay, dude, where would you like to meet? And of course, he changed the tune. He didn't want to meet. But at the MMA show that Damon and JD was fighting at, here comes Mike Santiago. And I don't know if you know about a lot of these amateur MMA shows, they're usually struggling for fighters, you know? And so I'm like, not only do we need some fighters, here comes Mike Santiago. Hey, Mike, you still think you can kick my ass? He said, you're kidding me. I said, nope. And so there we go. He agreed to fight me. And I would admit, probably 2/3 of the Northwest thought he was going to win. But I ended up winning with a third-round TKO. And I got out of a rear naked choke. Because where I come from, you can't lose.
So you didn't have really any training for that then, other than just jumping in there because you had a personal issue with the guy?
Well, except for boxing growing up, judo growing up, karate growing up, and wrestling, and then pro wrestling. Yeah, but no, I never had any MMA training, no.
But you had a bunch of martial art training, so I guess that's a big advantage. So you were an amateur wrestler before a pro wrestler then?
Yes, also, yes. And I've always just to hold my own.
Now, how did you become involved with Kevin Sullivan?
I found out that he lived up here, and he was wrestling for SCW over there in Bremerton, Paulsville area. And then so I started wrestling there too, and then almost instantly they got him in a feud with me. I ended up feuding with him for about a year, and then he decided, well, I guess however you put it, I was able to talk him into paying him more than what they're paying him to join my team. So he ended up turning on Ron Von Hess and then joining the Real School Army.
Have any stories about him?
Oh, Kevin is so great to work with. Yeah, we've traveled some. We've been to Vegas a couple times. We've been to Freak Show Wrestling there in California for Sin Bodhi at Rikishi's. We got to ref Sin Bodhi's match when Sin Bodhi wrestled himself.
I've never heard about that one.
That's what to watch there.
I know he throws darts at people because one of my friends wrestled him and took some darts, and I was thinking, how much did you get paid for that? And he said
Yeah,
$50, and I'm like, $50 to get darts whipped at you, like not my cup of tea.
that don't sound fun. No.
Yeah. So also you worked with Sam Houston, I guess, who I've done interviews with, and I like him as a person.
Yeah, I've got to wrestle him in Vegas. Man, he's a tough one. One of the toughest wrestlers I've wrestled. And yeah, it was a brawl wrestling Sam Houston, Chaz, and Wild Horse against me, Andrew Anderson, and Mustang Mike. And it was nice. We got Kevin Sullivan and Natalie Rose in or what's her name, Natalie Kennedy in our corner too. And that was a brawl.
Were you ever in the ring with Houston's brother, Jake Roberts?
Yes, I've got to tour on the Jake the Snake versus Jim Rowe Circus tour. I got to wrestle him a couple times on that. I got to wrestle Jake at the Freak Show Wrestling. And one of the highlights of my career, of course, was being DDT'd by Jake and having the snake put on me, which at first, having a snake put on me was sketchy because I don't like snakes, but there's just some things you have to block out, and I had no problem. I didn't freak out or nothing, of course.
Now, I guess in your real school army, which is the faction that you have over there, you've had guys like Wes Brisco part of it. Wes has wrestled for our company, Great North Wrestling, up here. He's held the Canadian title, the Hannibal TV title. How was your experience working with Wes?
I love working with Wes, and I admire him and his family, and I love him as a person. I admire him as a wrestler, and I have nothing but good things to say about Wes.
Are you surprised that, well, I guess it's not really surprising now that we've seen they've let Gerald Briscoe go from WWE, so obviously his power isn't what it once was, but you look at the roster in WWE and how close his father once was with Vince, and Wes is so talented. Are you surprised that they never gave him a real shot?
God, I know. That's their mistake, and their loss, as far as I'm concerned. He's a great asset to have on your show.
And another guy I've had on for interviews, and I would consider him a friend, is Stephan Bonnar, and I guess he's been part of your army as well.
Yes, man, we love working with Stephan, and I've already had him up here for 3 seminars in the Northwest here last year, and man, we had 3 seminars set up last month, and they're just growing. Where I would imagine they were going to have 50 people at each seminar on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then, of course, we had to cancel because of this COVID thing. So, I didn't get a refund on the ticket, but I have a year to get him back here, and the places want him back, and there's like 5 other places that want him too.
I actually did an interview with the PCW Ultra promoter in LA yesterday, Joseph Samel from MLW, and he said it's unlikely that they're going to run the rest of this year. It's unlikely my company is going to run. How's it looking for you?
Yeah, we're just playing it by ear. I mean, we had some big plans for this year where I was hoping to do a Washington State tour to go to all 39 counties, a fair tour, that we could start hooking up food banks in every county. That fell through. Of course, we were going to be going to Cauliflower Alley and then Texas for the Hall of Fame. And we're supposed to go to Cuba. Kevin said he had me go to Cuba with those guys in July. But last time I talked to Andrew Anderson, I think that's getting way pushed back. And of course, I'm probably like on the 3rd group of people to go. Definitely not in the first couple groups.
Oh, like not the first tour, but
Yeah,
like you mean like the third. I hope it goes well there. I've been to Cuba and it seems really poor, but I guess if they have the right connections and they promote it properly, maybe it could be a success. But when I was walking around, like it didn't seem like anyone had any money there, but I guess there might be some sponsorships from what I understand or something.
yeah. Is what I heard is like on a military base or something. So if I go there, I don't know if I'm gonna be touring around or nothing.
So at what point did you actually start your NGW company? How many years ago?
I started that in 2009. Um, I took a couple years off of wrestling, um, and then that's when they had the first recession. And all of a sudden, I'm watching classic sports, and Jerry Lewis was in there, and he had a Fight for Muscular Dystrophy shirt on. He was in the ring doing an exhibition with someone, and I was like, "That's what I want to do. I want to fight for muscular dystrophy." Because my mother had muscular dystrophy, and she died at 34 when I was 18.
Oh my. She had you young.
She was 15.
Wow.
Yeah.
My mother had me at 15 too, but she put me up for adoption.
Oh, oh, that sucks.
So now your company, it's still growing. I understand you also have something called NGW Green Room, where you're also doing interviews with wrestlers and keeping the company going from that standpoint.
Yeah, I'd love to do interview promos with all kinds of wrestlers. We've had over 100 wrestlers we've interviewed. Jim Ross, J.J. Dillon, Nikolai Volkov, Jim Cornette, uh, Ricky Santana, everybody in the Real School Army, Five Months
Marty
Long,
Jannetty, I hear.
Marty Jannetty too. That is I have a lost videotape of his. I pretty much know where it is. I have not been able to go get it yet, but I have it from Heroes and Legends 3 in Indiana.
Yeah, I was supposed to go to a Heroes and Legends last year, but it didn't work out. I hope to go to one in the future. I think it's Jason Maples that runs those, right?
Yes, yes.
He seems like a good guy. Uh, what's been your toughest wrestler to deal with that people would know from a promoter's standpoint? I mean, I'm sure you've had some here and there that have no-showed or others that have maybe shown up not in the best condition to wrestle.
At one point, there was a guy named Dash Venture who wrestled here. Man, he did really good, but somehow he would just be irrational and do crazy stuff at the shows. And of course, what's happened? He hasn't wrestled in the last few years because I think he's worn out his welcome. I mean, do crazy stuff like jumping the matches, start throwing toilet paper in the ring, uh, throwing chairs in the lobby when the because he didn't get his way or something. I'm like, come on, dude. And then I think he just wanted me to beat his butt or something. But one time I finally told him, I said, look, dude, I'm not going to beat your ass because I don't know. I think sometimes people are hurting so bad inside they want you to do them a favor and make them feel better. I don't know. But I don't have anything against Dash, but
And as a promoter too, you don't want to be getting in fights with wrestlers. And also as a promoter, you don't want any fights happening in your dressing rooms. It could affect your insurance levels in the future and your reputation.
exactly. That was another thing too. One time he got into a situation in my locker room. For some reason, he decided he didn't like another wrestler because the other wrestler brought like a raven or something to the shows, and it got loose at the show before. And then, so now Dash sees him in my locker room, comes up to him and goes, "I'm gonna beat your ass," he says to the guy. The guy was totally professional. His name was Emperor Boyd. He just sat right there, didn't move, didn't basically try to ignore him, but of course was keeping his guard. And then I said, "What? "Oh shit, you ain't gonna do shit, dude." I told Dash, and then Dash goes, "Hey, who wants to see me beat this guy's ass?" Probably 40% of the locker room goes, "Yeah!" Right then, I jumped in between them and I said, "Look, dude, you're gonna have to go through me if you think you're gonna touch him." Just because, like you said, you can't be having no fights in your locker room. I wouldn't do that to the facility I was at. You know, I appreciated them letting us have a show.
Yeah. You can damage stuff, or if, like, say, someone gets seriously hurt, you and the facility could be liable. Now, are you still wrestling yourself, or are you just mainly managing now?
I wrestled last October against Five Most Wanted. Me and Sin ended up going against Sexy Sean Casey and Billy Blade, and that was a heck of a match. I got to RKO Sexy Sean Casey, so I got another victory against those guys. I was hoping to go down there to Cauliflower Alley and challenge them guys for the Cauliflower Alley tag team titles, but of course that never happened. I guess
It's supposed to happen in September. I actually interviewed Brian Blair last week. We'll see. It looks like they keep extending things. No matter how close we get, it gets pushed back. But Brian's confident it's going to happen in September. So hopefully it will, because I'll be there to cover it again if it does. But we'll see. It's not looking good.
I know. I didn't even feel like planning anything because it's just a letdown, and they just want to keep extending this thing out. You know, another thing I was trying to do is trying to bring wrestling to South Korea. Hopefully bringing Stephan Bonnar over there for some seminars at the 8th Army that's out inside there in Seoul in South Korea. And, of course, I'd love to bring Kevin Sullivan, Andrew Anderson, Tokyo Monster, people like that over there. But it's basically, God only knows if it'll ever happen.
Well, hopefully things will get back to normal sooner than later. I'm praying for it. Where could people look you up on social media if they want to follow you?
Yeah, I'm at Coach Mike Jones on YouTube. I'm Coach Mike Jones on Twitter, and Coach Mike Jones on Instagram. And then I'm Michael D. Jones on Facebook. And I also have pages Coach Mike Jones, the coach of the most, and the Real School Army pages.
I'm surprised you're not wearing your Kevin Sullivan robe today.
I know.
Is that your real hair color, or do you have to? You don't see too many blondes anymore in wrestling. You bleach it?
Yeah.
I would bleach mine, but I don't have any left. But it's nice to see that you're keeping that old school tradition alive. How many years have you been in the business altogether?
I started in '96. I took some years off from 2005 to like 2008, and then I've been back in since 2009, solid. And then of course I don't wrestle all the time, but you know, I try to pick my spots.
Has your regular job been affected by this lockdown at all?
I'm fortunate that I'm back to work. I guess they said though 50% of the people are unemployed at the place I'm involved with. Yeah.
Yeah, I know here I've got tons of friends that have lost their jobs, so glad to hear that you're going to be going back to work. Has the government given you anything there to make up for being off work?
Yeah, I did get the stimulus, and my girlfriend got the stimulus, and then when I was unemployed for a couple months, I was able to get $600 extra a week, which, my goodness, that made it where I was almost making more than I was making last year.
And of course, promoting, it's probably more of a hobby. I mean, a lot of fans don't understand, a lot of wrestlers don't understand the cost of promoting events. They think that the promoters make a fortune, but at the indie level, you're doing it for passion, I'm assuming.
Oh, it's definitely a hobby, yes, and the passion. I'm, I think I've got more passion than a lot of the Northwest wrestlers myself, but let me tell it, I guess.
Now, is there anything else you want to plug here before we wind this up? You've been nice enough to spend a good amount of time with us here. Thank you a lot for your time.
Man, no, I really appreciate your having me on and plugging the NGW Green Room, the Real School Army, and I'm just so grateful that you gave me the time, and I love all of your work, all of your. I try to share as much of your stuff as I can. I will continue, and I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much.
Very good. Well, I'm sure I'll run into you one of these days. Kevin was actually talking to me today that if that Cuba thing happens, maybe we'll come down there and cover it for the Hannibal TV. So I might run into you there, might run into you Cauliflower Alley Club or one of the future projects that are happening. So if let's give the wrestling fans here to close this off a taste of your promo skills. Let's say you were wrestling Jake Roberts tonight and Kevin Sullivan was managing you in the ring. What would you tell him here to close this off?
Coach Mike Jones, the coach with the most, coming at you from coast to coast here in Puyallup, Washington. Jake the Snake, we got news for you, brother. We'll be showing you the lights. We're going to be tearing you up. We're going to be tying that snake around your neck. And then Kevin Sullivan is going to be coming at you with the Asiatic spike.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Support us on patreon.com for $1.99 a month to watch our full shoot interviews ad-free and help our channel grow. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.